March 19th this year, DMBoK released a revised edition of the DMBoK, and if this is the first time you're buying the DMBoK, it's the edition you're going to end up with. It is described as the most up-to-date and authoritative source of information for data management professionals. So this video is for those of you who have a copy of the old edition and you're looking to answer a couple of questions. So the first question people want to know is, should I buy the revised edition if I've already got a copy of the DMBoK? And the second question is, can I pass the CDMP fundamentals exam if I only have a copy of the previous edition? Let's tackle that second question first. If you've spent your own money on the DMBoK and you're preparing for the CDMP, you probably want to know, can I pass the exam if my source text is the previous version? So let's get this out of the way first. The main concepts in the DMBoK are stable. This is best practice and it doesn't change just because they've revised the book. There are updated definitions in many of the knowledge area context diagrams. However, these are mainly improving readability rather than changing the underlying principles. And if you're taking the CDMP fundamentals exam, you should get to a point where you do not need to look things up in the book during the exam. It's going to hold you back. Either the previous or the revised edition will get you where you need to be, and we continue to see students pass with flying colours that are using an older copy. If you're yet to buy the DMBoK, you're going to end up with a new edition. However, those who've already got a copy of the previous edition need to know whether to spend another $79 to get this revised edition. If you've got an existing copy and plan to use it for the exam, you're absolutely fine to stick with the old version. If you're using it as a reference text, you're absolutely fine to stick with the old version. I would only buy the new edition if money is no object and $79 is a trivial sum to you, or if your company is going to fund the purchase and you're not spending your own money. The revised edition is a better book than the original edition, but if you're struggling financially, it's not necessary to buy it and you should save your money for something else. So what do you need to know if you're making the decision to buy a copy of the revised edition? Here's the three main improvements. The data quality chapter has had a major upgrade. The order of the concepts has been streamlined, the wording and definitions has been simplified and clarified, and the tables introducing data quality dimensions have been improved with clear examples of these to help students understand how to identify real-world quality issues and connect them to the underlying dimensions. They've also expanded section 6 of this chapter to connect data quality with data modeling, master and reference data management, metadata management, data integration and interoperability, and data governance. So the new version is worth buying for these updates alone. A lot of work has clearly gone into revising the definitions for most of the context diagrams, which improves the clarity and makes each knowledge area easier to understand for a beginner. DMBoK has also updated the goals and tweaked some of the inputs and deliverables, techniques, tools and metrics. The biggest improvements is in the activities section of each context diagram, where DMBoK has ordered the activities chronologically so they make more sense as a process flow. Throughout the book, data governance program has been replaced with data governance function. This might seem like a minor detail, but it's one of many improvements to make the terminology clearer, easier to understand, and more consistently applied throughout the book. On its own, this is a cosmetic upgrade, but when you have a book the size of the DMBoK, written by so many different authors, achieving this degree of consistency is hard. The clarifications and standardization ought to make it easier to follow the concepts throughout the book for a beginner to the field. Simply put, the revised edition is a better book. Of course it is. The DMBoK team have clearly listened to feedback and invested a lot of time in creating this revised edition. At the same time, the CDMP fundamentals exam tests exactly that, the fundamentals of data management, and these have been stable for years. None of the underlying concepts have changed. The book has simply improved the language used to introduce them. If you're midway through your CDMP preparation journey and have an older version with notes in, keep it. We've had students clear the CDMP with scores in the high 80s this month, and they did not bother to buy the latest version. Good luck!